Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Game Junk Podcast, episode 200, recording on Sunday, July 14th, 2024. My name is Frank.
My name is Sean.
And my name is Andrew.
200 episodes. At our original pace, you would think if you just started listening to episodes from 2009, you'd think it's the year 2002. 209.
I don't know if we would have made it.
And yeah, like it's crazy how like the schedule's changed. Game Junk prototype, the journey we've taken to episode 200. So most of all, thanks to all the listeners and or watchers on youtube.com/Game Junk for listening to us, watching us, submitting us questions. Today we'll be doing a mail episode with questions mostly from Discord, but also thanks to you two gentlemen. It's been a crazy 15 years doing this podcast. It's kind of nuts.
Yeah. I mean, so we started doing it kind of weekly, I guess 2020, right? Like COVID around?
It was before that.
Was it before that?
Before COVID, I think.
It can't be though. If you crunch the numbers.
Well, we did the prototypes. Did we ever change the number after we did the prototype episodes?
I think we counted the prototypes.
Yeah, I don't remember what we did.
I'm trying to rapidly go back now.
And there's some Game Junk reviews in there, some weeks off. It's tough to say, to be honest.
Okay, so we started, February 2020, Game Junk prototype episode 1. So we have technically done over 200 episodes. So this is 200 prototype-ish episodes where it's just like the weekly show. We did 40 old school episodes that were like 3 times a year.
Yeah.
And then we've done some review episodes too. So we're technically like 45 episodes behind.
Yeah.
200. Ahead of 200.
The number is absolutely meaningless. And from this point on, we will treat it as such. So anything else you guys want to say before we get into the questions?
Not really. Just, thanks for listening. I mean, we just keep doing it because people are, part of the community, keep us interested and wanting to talk about games. So
yeah, it's been really fun. July 30th, 2010 was when you guys did the first show. And then I was on the second show, I think, which was September 10, 2010. So
all right, a little off. So 2009 was my first guess. Was close.
Pretty close. Yeah. 14 years. Pretty good.
But yeah, those episodes were pretty long back in the day.
We probably should have waited until next week to do this. You said, what was the first episode, Andrew, ever?
July 30th.
Oh, 30th.
20.
Should have waited until then for the official anniversary of the start of this
15-year anniversary. Yeah. We'll do a real kickoff again. We'll just do the show again. Repost.
All right. Enough nostalgia. Let's get into the actual questions from our loyal listeners whom we love. First up, Bard. And this came under the kind of episode 200 ideas. So some of these were like, hey, a whole episode idea, or we're just kind of turning them into questions. Okay. So first one, Bard, how about top 5 gaming specific moments or memories? Like could be a kid's seeing and experiencing with Super Mario World for the first time, or a specific boss or story reveal. So I don't know if anyone actually did top 5s or prepared a list here. I've got kind of 5.
Yeah, I've got 5. I don't know if it's top 5, but
okay.
It's a good question though. I do like the question.
Yeah. Anyone want to go first?
I can kick it off. So one of my memories is, I don't know if it's probably pretty specific to like our generation coming up. Sean probably has the same feels as me about this one, but kicking on your like 386 PC and then loading up like the most recent LucasArts Sierra adventure game and just watching those sweet cinematics they made and being like, this is it. This is the pinnacle of games. Graphics cannot get any better than this. This is blowing my mind. It's like a cartoon in game form. How could it get any better? And just always being amazed by watching, cinematics in King's Quest games and like Space Quest and whatever those LucasArts games. They always just blew my mind with how good they looked. And even later on, you can kind of apply this to like Blizzard games when like Diablo came out and seeing the CG in those games. And now you look back on them and they were like, 320 by 280 resolution, absolute just turds compared to today's standards. And it's really amazing.
Some beautiful artistry there. Let's not downplay it, but
totally. But I mean, it was just like that was just one of my, like a memory I have of just being so blown away by these graphics of these, basically low res cartoons, and really thinking like games are the best. And this is good. Better. Yeah, this is amazing. Why would anyone want anything more than this? And now look where we are. We're like, you can't even tell things are games sometimes. So it's pretty incredible.
So I just want to point out, we have another question lower down later in the list that's kind of similar, and I have some answers that are kind of more along the lines of what you just said, where it's like, technology things that was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah.
The list I'm going to say here is more just like memories that stand out in my mind of like great, fun moments or times playing video games. So I'll start with number one. You were mentioning the LucasArts Sierra games. I'm going to mention Maniac Mansion, one of my favorite games. First time playing this, we were over at a friend's house. They loaded this game up. And one of the first things that happens in the game is when you get into the mansion, if you go into the first door that's there, you go into the kitchen and you get chased by, I believe it's Nurse Edna. And I just remember we were all like, oh my God. And like, we're just clicking like as fast as we could, like run. And it was just like so intense. And just a great start to that game, which, it has a lot of things in it that feel a little bit emergent or alive, where it's like you're moving around this mansion, but like somebody might be in the room at this point in the game. They might not be there later, So that kind of stuff was really cool.
Yeah, my list is more like in the games themselves, like things I remember, not necessarily personal memories. Whatever. Let's go for it.
We're all over the place. That's fine.
Number 5 for me, completing a co-op campaign in Gears of War. I think my friend and I
it's fun.
Literally played it beginning to end, split screen at my house.
What are you talking about? You're saying it's all about game moments, and then your very first one is about your buddy playing with your buddy.
I agree, but it was just like doing it in one day. Like, we're going to play this co-op campaign on split screen on my huge TV at the time. And so we each had our own screen. It was amazing. And just, I don't even think it was the first time I'd beaten the game, but beating it in co-op was kind of a new thing. Really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's a good one. I have one. Mine are not really in order. I'm going to put this one next. So similar to Sean's of, this like, oh my God moment, what the hell's going on? But I was over at a buddy's house and he had one of these old houses where the basement's not finished. There's like gravel in the corners because the floor is only like half finished concrete pad, like just spooky as shit down there. And we're having a little sleepover at night, and the PlayStation had come out, and we decided to rent Resident Evil and playing it in this super freaky basement, lights off, like just, total scare factor on high alert. And that kind of first scene, that first jump scare when the dog comes through the window, like just absolutely terrified us. And like, we're like, that's it, we're done. Like, can't play this game anymore down here. Turn on the lights. Like, it was just so fun and so memorable. And just an absolutely terrifying moment. And probably the first time, and like I'd played, what was it, Alone in the Dark? That was kind of like the first sort of like survival horror game. I'd kind of played that, but it was pretty janky. And it did not have the fidelity, even though like Resident Evil on PlayStation 1 was pretty blocky, but it was not anywhere as cinematic as that. So it was just a very memorable moment in my gaming life.
Yeah, the Hell Dog moment is a good one, just in
I
general.
think,
And
yeah,
then
I
you
think that,
added all the other elements to it.
The ambiance of a haunted house.
I think that jump scare scarred a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
Okay, my next moment was playing Metroid, the original Metroid, which I, never really beat, in any sort of real capacity. It was one of those things you would rent. Maybe we had a password. Maybe we were trying a password from a magazine or something. Like, I feel like we're just always jumping all over the place. But there was a point in the game where we kind of felt stuck. And I was like, I don't know where we go next. And my brother was like, just jump in the lava. And we were like, what? Okay. Jumped in the lava. And sure enough, it was like fake lava. You fall through into the next room. And we were like, oh my God. Just a crazy moment.
I'd have been like, that is bullshit. Are you supposed to know to jump through lava? My number 4, one I've talked about many times, the giraffes in The Last of Us. Getting to pet those giraffes and just the change of pace, a moment I will never forget.
A classic. A classic. My next one is related to Final Fantasy on PC. I didn't have it. I think I've told this story before, but I bought this copy of Final Fantasy VII. Never had a PlayStation, and it had finally come to PC. I was like, yes, I'm going to play this game finally. I get to the end of, I don't know, disc 1 or disc 2. I can't remember which one. There's some big cinematic that plays. The game crashes, and I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? So I load up again, play through, crashes again. I'm like, holy shit, this cannot be happening right now. Uninstall the whole game, reinstall it, keep my save file, play through, crashes again. I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. I corrupted my save or something. So I delete that, start a fresh game, get all the way back, crashes in the same spot. I'm losing my mind. I take the game back to the store, get a new copy, try that one, crashes again. I'm like, oh, what is happening here? So I had to wait. I just had to wait. My computer just could not handle the power of Final Fantasy VII PC edition. And
another reason why PC gaming sucked for so.
yes, exactly. So that one, yeah, that's a good memory of frustration in gaming.
All right. Okay, so my next one is the Psycho Mantis boss fight in Metal Gear Solid. I had not played this game when it originally came out. I didn't have a PlayStation 1. So this is all tied to my first week working at Silicon Knights with our friend Paul, started at the same time as me. And our first assignment was basically, because we were working on Twin Snakes, was basically play through Metal Gear Solid. So that's what we were doing for our first week there. And this boss fight, the moment where you kind of put that controller down, he says like, put the controller down, and then it like vibrates and it like moves across the floor. Like, obviously you know what it's doing, but it was just such a cool moment. I was like, oh my God, I see why people love this game. So yeah, it's definitely a great memory.
Well, this is my number 2, but I've kind of Psycho Mantis boss fight, more so switching the port and reading save files than vibrating the controller. But in general, I think Metal Gear Solid and like the cinematic nature, the boss fights like Vulcan Raven, it felt like a big change in games for me and how I looked at games.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Are you just keeping that as yours, Frank, there then?
Yeah.
So back to me?
Next. Yep.
Okay. So my next one, I think I've also talked about this one, but my first console was Sega Genesis. And so we got it on a Christmas morning, probably a year after it had come out or something. And I went downstairs and my dad had set up this little monitor with like the NHL game playing on it. And I was just like so blown away by having this thing because I had never expected it. I don't think I'd ever asked for it. And it was just such a cool moment of coming down. It wasn't like that Nintendo kid moment where I completely freaked out, but it was pretty close. And yeah, it was quite a cool thing to come down to on Christmas morning. You're expecting like some presents under the tree, and here's this video game console lighting up the room with like, people body checking the shit out of each other and scoring goals and sirens going off. And it was just really fun to come down to. And yeah, just a great, I don't think kids days would really ever get to experience something like that. But I mean, I guess we could do it if we really wanted to, but it would be tough.
Yeah, I mean, well, just the fact that your dad kind of set it up, like I feel like that doesn't happen so much these days. Maybe I'm wrong, but and then I'm like, now I'm on the other side of the coin. I'm like, did your dad just want to be able to sleep in? Was he like, okay, we'll have this thing out. They're going to be playing video games all morning.
Or did he want to stay up and play it all immediately?
Oh yeah, that could be too. Yep. Okay, my next one, Resident Evil 4, beginning of the game, or close to the beginning. You're in that village, and I just have this memory of like the first time you go into that one farmhouse when there's sort of like this whole scripted thing that happens where you kind of get locked in, and then the chainsaw guy comes at you and stuff. Like, because I feel like I had maybe died some other way, and that didn't happen. So then when I went in there and all this stuff happened, I was like, what the hell? It just felt like, so again, like emergent and open, like anything could happen in this game. And of course, like, I mean, it's not really like that throughout a lot of the game, but that was such a cool moment. And like, obviously it was a good kind of jump scare as well with the chainsaw and everything. It's ingrained in my memory for sure.
Number 2 or 3, kind of cheating a bit, but seeing Mario 64 on Electric Playground. I think it was like when Electric Playground first started, and it was either E3 or CES, I can't remember, and they were showing the first Nintendo 64 games, and it was Mario spinning Bowser by his tail, and it just blew my mind. I had it taped somehow. I rewound that tape 100 times. This is like, there was no precursor to video, like previews. I bought every game magazine, and I always looked at pictures of games, but seeing something in motion of something I couldn't play yet and wanted to play, I guess kind of just speaks to this show, talking about things that might come out, or being excited for stuff, sometimes more so than the actual results and playing them. So I don't know. I was always into video game news and anticipating different game things. And that was like the moment I think that really kicked into next gear.
Yeah, that just reminded me of one I don't have on my list, but even just like getting those Nintendo Power magazines and whatever other magazines and just absolutely like devouring articles about a game you were interested in. I remember Mario 64 was one of them. Like all of the Pilot Wings, they would have like, Nintendo 64 launch lineup things, like looking at Wave Race and looking at like just all these games that you're just looking at a small picture of it and you're like staring at it, imagining what it's like, how it plays, and reading the article, rereading it. It's like a different time.
I have so many screenshots from magazines ingrained in my mind. Like, I remember the one from a Sonic game that was an arcade game that never came out. And I was like, this is going to be the best game ever. And never even happened. But I still remember that image. So,
yeah. And then like even it was like a different level of like rumor mill, because you'd hear about stuff that happened at like EGS, or no, not like Tokyo Game Show or E3. And it was only like kind of like in passing, like your buddy would be like, oh, I heard about this. Like, I remember the big one for me was I heard they're doing Final Fantasy VI on PlayStation. And then it turned out it was like a tech demo for Final Fantasy VII kind of thing, but they used like models from Final Fantasy VI characters. And I remember that was like mind blowing. And then there was all like stuff that came out in Japan that never came out here, like that 64DD disk drive thing that never came out, and like other things, like just like weird. Japan gaming was like a totally different thing. It was not like simultaneously launch across regions like it is now. It was like it would come out in Japan, and then like maybe 6 months to a year later, we'd get a localized copy. And it was just, you would have to like wait. It was out there, but you could not play.
Yeah, that I kind of forget about the time it would take from Japan to North America. But I remember a page of Die Hard Game Fan, one of my favorite magazines, and it was before Final Fantasy VII was going to go onto the PlayStation. It was supposed to be Ultra 64, and it was like this fight sequence that was like, this is the first footage of Final Fantasy VII on Ultra 64, and then that evaporated. It was I don't even know if it was Ultra 64 that it was running on or something else, but I remember that page of that magazine very well.
Yeah.
All right. Nice.
That wasn't really one of mine. I'll just continue with my last one, which was playing GoldenEye with friends. And we made up crazy contraptions. You'd obviously have to play with no radar, but then we also made these like things out of cardboard to split the screen down, and everyone would like cram to each side of the cardboard cutout so you could not see the other team's screen. And then you would play, 2-on-2 deathmatch or whatever. And everyone knew the levels so well when we were playing these games that if you looked at the other guy's screen, even with the no radar on, you would know exactly where they were and be able to go kill them. So we made all these contraptions to try to make the matches fair. And it was just like, there's probably equivalencies now with all the online gaming that goes on, like Helldivers and stuff like that. But it was like a different thing. It was like a LAN party, but on a console. And N64 was the first one that really let you do 4 people at a time. And it was just, everyone played GoldenEye that I grew up with. And you'd go over to someone's house. What do you want to do? Let's play GoldenEye. Okay. And that was just like the thing you did for probably 6 months, maybe a year straight. Like that's just what you did. You just played a shit ton of GoldenEye. And it was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, if I was doing like kind of social stuff, that would be on there for sure. Renting a Sega Saturn the first time and having like my friends over and playing Daytona and Virtua Fighter is up there. There's a couple other
renting
ones.
Consoles. Talk about something that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, that kind of ties into my last one, which is I was going to mention Super Mario 3. Now, I don't remember. I assume I knew the game, something about the game, but like certain stores, this was before it was out in North America, you could rent like, I guess a Famicom system. I don't remember exactly what it was or how it worked, but there was some kind of converter and you could play the Japanese version of Super Mario 3 before it was out here in North America. And I remember renting that and playing the game and just, being kind of blown away by the game. But it was just that whole like idea of like, it's not even out here yet, but we could play it somehow. Like, how is this even possible? Like, I don't even, it's just a weird hazy memory, but it's there.
Nice. Another one I would include socially is sleepovers. A lot of the centers are on sleepovers for sure with friends, and doing like simulations in Madden and making our own teams and just uniforms. Especially this is like later, probably like late high school, and we would do it all night. We would just keep making up teams and re-simulating seasons. It was a ton of fun. My number one, probably not a surprise once you hear it, exploring the permanently surfaced submarine in Uncharted Drake's Fortune. And when you go into that submarine and the idea of like custom animations, going through the different types of doors and grabbing things and interacting on this like super specific scale with an environment. I was working at Silicon Knights and I was like, the game did not get great reviews. It was like, it's kind of a ripoff. I'm like, no, this game is special. This game everyone needs to play this game. And it just changed the way I thought about games. It got me excited about like games in a different way than I had been up until that point in my life. And it kind of started my love affair with the Blue Haze. That submarine moment and the rest of Uncharted 1 just set up everything else from that point on.
Yeah, that's one of those games where you were just like beating the drum for Uncharted so hard.
Yeah.
I had to play it. And then when I did, I also was hooked. It was like this is a perfect game. It's so good. And that moment, I think I went home, played that moment, and I came back, I was like, "Oh my God, this is the best." The best thing in video games right now.
Does not get enough credit. Uncharted 1. All right. That was fun. Thanks, Bard. Next up. Well, I think it's not on our email, but do we want to do the soundtracks now or talk about it?
Sure.
Dustin on the Discord was looking for our favorite video game soundtracks, top 5, top 10 episode or something like that. We'll just, I think rather than rotating, maybe we'll just each do our list kind of thing for this one and kind of go through our list. Mine is like not great, but
so one little caveat to this. I'm not sure if he wants score or soundtrack with songs that exist outside of games that are,
I think
I have a couple that have external songs, but it's mostly score.
Yeah. I mean, it's the overall music experience would be my guess.
Right.
Like I wouldn't include GTA Vice City or something like that.
Right. Okay. I mean, I can kick it off.
I'll go. Because
Okay.
my list is a turd.
Yeah, let's go in reverse order because I forgot we were supposed to do this one, so I'm making up a list right now.
Honorable mention, just playing Red Dead Redemption right now for like an ambient kind of open world soundtrack in a Western, and then it's got like written songs and then even songs in the Undead Nightmare. It's a really good kind of Western ambient soundtrack, and I'm loving it. Number 5 for me, The Last of Us. I kind of base this on songs I remember. I'm sure there's better, like if I went back and listened to the songs from games, like there's actually better songs I would listen to, but I remember the end credits song so well from The Last of Us, opening titles, and I think the music is great in that. Overall music, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, kind of this like rock score. I just love the music in that game. Don't know a particular track, but some of the best tunes. And it was like sounded so good on the PlayStation, like stereo sound. It shredded. Number 3, Final Fantasy VII. Having played the remake and remasters and a bunch of it, it's got a lot of iconic tunes. Number 2, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Definitely being carried heavily by Chemical Plant Zone music and Green Hill Zone, but I think my favorite video game song of all time is the Chemical Plant Zone music. And number 1, and it's not even close. Like those other 4 I mentioned are like whatever. I need answers. Beginning to end, every track is a banger. The greatest soundtrack in video game history that does not people mention it, but it should be like talked about way more. It legit great songs. Mega Man 2. And it is not even close. We opened the first episode of Game Junk with the menu screen music and start button screen music from Mega Man 2, and it's the greatest.
Okay. I mean, Mega Man would just the series in general is, I guess, if this is a top 5, that would be an honorable mention for me, but it would be my favorite of the retro stuff, basically. My top 5, number 5, Metroid Prime. I mean, I like all the Metroid stuff, but for some reason, Metroid Prime stands out as like a game I was like trying to download the soundtrack online. I don't know. I just really got into that soundtrack. Number 4, Fez. Just love the kind of atmosphere of it. And yeah. Number 3, Undertale. This one maybe is getting a little bit juiced because for some reason, Kieran is now obsessed with the music from this game, even though he's played the game a little bit, but somehow the music he's obsessed with. And so I hear it a lot, but it is a great soundtrack. Number 2, Trials of the Blood Dragon. I think an underrated game in general, but the soundtrack is great by Power Glove. And number 1, VVV. And,
Wow, you guys have missed the greatest game soundtrack of all time, in my opinion.
So just to say, like, I was thinking about it more like soundtracks that I would actually put on and listen to. In terms of scores that I think are great, that I don't really listen to on their own, but I think they're amazing in the game. Frank already mentioned a couple of them, but Last of Us and Red Dead Redemption are up there. And also Breath of the Wild, I think, is a pretty subtle but cool score.
So I just want to confirm yours is Trials of the Blood Dragon and not like the Blood Dragon DLC for Far Cry 3?
Right, yeah.
Okay. I wonder
Interesting.
what Huck says we're missing. The only thing I can think of is Ocarina of Time.
No, it's a Sega Genesis game.
Oh.
And I must say, it's got some bangers on it. But I would say, honorable mention, I kind of want to put Halo up there. It has some pretty memorable score pieces. But I'm going to go number 5, Tetris. I think there are a couple absolutely great songs on the Tetris score that can't be beat. Number 4, Doom, I think has some very great tracks. I don't know, like I don't know if I would have the same thing as like I want to listen to these that Sean did, but these are ones that I think when I hear them, I immediately think of the game, or when I'm playing the game, I'm like, oh, this music's so great. Number 3, Super Metroid. Number 2, I'm bunching Final Fantasy 4, 6, and 7 all together. One big Final Fantasy love package. And number 1, Streets of Rage 2. An absolute classic soundtrack that I would listen to on by itself. It is so good. So, yeah.
So I might listen to Streets of Rage 2. I was listening to Mega Man 2 before this and really enjoying it. So any other recommendations, leave on the comments, youtube.com/GameJunk, or the Discord. You can find the link on there. But I kind of want to listen to some of these amazing video game moments. I have another side list I made just as a joke, which I often talk about playing games while listening to music. And these are my top 5 most memorable music gaming combinations.
Oh, this is actually a great topic.
So number 5, this one isn't that good, but I needed a 5th one. I remember I had downloaded a Marilyn Manson album like through LimeWire or something like that, but there was one song I couldn't get. You couldn't find it anywhere. And it was from the Matrix Reloaded soundtrack, I think, or the Revolutions. And I remember going and buying that album at Future Shop and putting that song on repeat and playing Super Mario Brothers: The Lost Levels. It was my last day at university. I was like waiting to leave. I can't remember why I was waiting, or I was waiting for something, and I must have done this all day, and I must have drove my roommates fucking nuts.
Yeah.
But I did that. I can listen to a song many, many times in a row. It's kind of scary and not get sick of it. Number 4, not the original time Crash Bandicoot came out, but replaying it probably circa 2000, 2002 area, and listening to System of a Down the whole time, like Chop Suey almost.
Beautiful. Just Toxic. See, mine is like albums for sure.
One day in university, I think I played Toadstool Tour all day. Listened to every Offspring album. I'm almost positive it might have been Tiger Woods, but I'm sure it was. I played Toadstool. I wasted a whole day. What I would give to go back to like just literally wasting a day with nothing.
That's funny. I remember listening to Offspring Smash and the Smashing Pumpkins double album, whatever that's called. Yeah, just like while playing Final Fantasy 6. Just I listen to those albums and I just immediately think of Final Fantasy 6 all the time now. It's just like the time they came out, listen to them straight.
Around 3 p.m, started crushing the Lakeport Honeys, bucket beers, and then it was off to Phil's that night. Oh,
classic Phil's.
Number 2, Wave Race 64 and the Presidents of the United States of America, second album, specifically Mach 5, got a lot of lot of plays playing Wave Race 64. I associate the start of a race in Wave Race 64 with Mach 5. And number one, this is an entire album, an entire story, a saga. Playing NHL 94 all day, season mode as the Buffalo Sabres and listening to Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor original Canadian cast recording on repeat.
Shortly after you had gone to the play, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely after, but
yeah,
Joseph got a lot of play. I think I know almost every word still.
It's funny how that happens.
All right, next question. Thank you, Dustin. You got another one in here somewhere. Darth Murdoch, if you had to make your own Nintendo World Championship style gaming lineup, what would it be? Now, I could not really think of anything for this. And I don't know if we mean like I think it's like specific levels, or I looked it up. I think the cart had Tetris. I forgot already.
So there's 13 games on the new one that came out, the World Championship style game.
No, but I think the original cart had like 3 games. I think it was Tetris. And I think the original championship was like playing three different games.
So this is like basically like in the movie The Wizard, right? Like they would bring people in and they would compete with, a set lineup of NES games. Now, did that lineup change from year to year, or was it always the same games?
I'm not sure. So it's a little tough to say, but you could interpret this like if you could pick any 3 games as a barometer, or is it just Nintendo games? So I don't know if we can kind of put a list together. I feel like it has to be. Well, Huck, you have some, so maybe.
Yeah. So I did it a little differently. I looked at the newest game that is just coming out, or is just out. There's 13 games on that one. So I made a list of 13 games, and there's 2 ways I was looking at it. Like, is it just NES games that you would put on here, or is it games in general? So I took it as the latter, and I didn't pick any NES games to distinguish it. So mine is any game that I think would be good in this sort of like skill challenge kind of style of game. So that's how I made my list. So it's kind of like time trials, speed runs, that sort of aspect, challenge modes, how hit the guy in 5 seconds kind of thing, or stuff like that.
Well, I'll pull from my music moments. You have to beat, let's say.
And I also didn't I didn't like explicitly say any of the actual time trials. I just thought games that might be good for it. I'm not trying to design a game based around these things right now. So mine is less detailed than you're trying to make it out right now. But we can go there if we want.
Well, I'm just going to say, what's the Wave Race 64 track? Isn't there one with Mallard in it?
Mallard.
Drake Lake, sorry.
Drake Lake.
You're gonna do Drake Lake on Wave Race 64. You need to do let's do the Bridge to Nowhere level in Crash Bandicoot with like the falling planks. That's really annoying. And you have to do, I'm adding a different game, Star Fox 64, like one of the middle levels. So some shooting, platforming, and racing kind of ideas. Little variety.
I mean, I didn't have a lot prepared for this. My only thought was I would like to see one game, probably like a Mario game where it's more of a speed run thing, one game where it's more of a puzzle thing and you're going for a high score, and then the last one would be like a head-to-head type thing, or maybe it's a Mario Kart or a Smash Brothers, something like that.
You could do a good modern Nintendo with Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, and like Galaxy or Wonder.
Yeah. Now, I did have a question or a little additional discussion surrounding this, but Huck, why don't you give your list first?
Well, I mean, my list is more like the way I was thinking about this is like, I think the prerequisite for games on this list should be games most people would know and be at least glancingly familiar with. though there's maybe like one or two exceptions on my list that and then I also wanted to hit like different style of games like you were talking about a bit there, where you have some platforming, you have some other stuff, shooting and stuff. So my list in no particular order, I put Super Metroid on there. I mean, you could do platforming, collectible challenges, stuff like that with that. Super Mario World, similar to how they have Mario. A Link to the Past, I thought you could maybe do some interesting stuff with that. Then Doom, there's always like speed runs or kills or something in Doom. Arkham Asylum has like a ton already kind of challenges built into that game that would lend itself perfectly. GoldenEye, I thought kind of similar. They already have the time trial stuff built in for bonus stuff. Portal, I thought you could probably make a pretty cool, speed run type thing with Portal. Tetris, Tetris is in the original, so obviously it's pretty good. Here's where I kind of go off the reservation now. Spy Hunter for Commodore 64. I don't know if you guys remember that gem.
Oh yeah.
I thought you could do some pretty interesting stuff with that. I wanted a Commodore 64 callback. That was probably pretty popular. I put Cuphead on here. I thought you could probably do some pretty awesome stuff with Cuphead. And then I put TIE Fighter as like a space shooter. You could probably do some interesting stuff with that. Diddy Kong Racing. Screw you guys and your Mario Kart. Come on.
TIE Fighter's a problem.
What do you mean a problem?
You need like keyboard and mouse for that. What if you don't know how to use keyboard and mouse?
They have Space Sims on the controllers now.
Okay.
Diddy Kong Racing. A gem. Way better than Mario Kart. And then the last and obvious entry, Binary Domain.
Yeah, I mean, they would have to challenge you in Binary Domain, right? That would be the
final. How many legs can you blow off of the robots? It's simple. It's no problem.
So the one other thing I wanted to bring up with this, which mentioned the movie The Wizard. So in that movie, at the very end, sort of the final competition is they unveil Super Mario Brothers 3, which nobody had played yet. Now, I don't know if that's something that ever happened in these kind of competitions, but I think that's a really interesting, is it, if you're just trying to test skill, wouldn't that be the best way to test skill? Give people a game they've never even seen before.
Yeah, I think I don't know if this actually happened, but maybe Lost Levels was like that at a Nintendo World Championship once.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I mean, the real thing that would blow up is that some World Championship Silk Song. People get to play Silk Song.
Oh,
people
yeah.
absolutely shit their pants. All right. I did not prepare for this next one, so this one could be rough. Sorry, Bard. We already answered one of your questions very well. Is there a dream game you can piece together from multiple other games, features / ideas, like combine the best features from 3 or 5 other games into one, and that's a cream dream supreme? I mean, that's basically what Uncharted Drake's Fortune is. It's taken Gears of War, Tomb Raider, and like cinematic elements from Metal Gear, and that's gaming in general. That's how games try to get better.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough question just because, I mean, I think that's what a lot of indie games, I think, are doing now, is they're like pulling pieces of different genres and mixing them together. Mini Shoot Adventures, which I just played this year, is, this cool like Zelda, Metroid mashed up with like a shoot 'em up game. I had one thing that I wrote down. I don't even know if it would be that great, but for some reason this popped into my head. So LA Noire, a game we've famously talked about many times as having so much potential, but maybe not working the best in reality. But what if you could take that, and now with some of the stuff that's going on today, you take something like Hellblade or some of these games that are right on the cutting edge of facial animation and performance capture. And there are games now that are using AI where you can actually talk to characters in the game and they are responding, like you're having an actual dialogue, voice recognition with characters. You put those things together with LA Noire, and I think you could have something real interesting.
I'd add, let's get some actual deductive reasoning from Case of the Golden Idol in there as well.
Sure.
And, I mean, even going back to whatever episode we reviewed LA Noire, I can remember in real life, like what actually tells you someone's lying? Like there, and the game doesn't explain the rules. And obviously the facial expressions didn't really convey much and they weren't that obvious. So I think it would be better served by like catching people in lies or just pulling information from the conversations, like you're saying, Sean, and then, you know, going back and making an argument rather than it just being about like body language reading and stuff like that. Like I don't get that. Maybe you can incorporate if the player knew the rules for that system very well. I think it would help kind of accentuate all these other things. But you can't base a whole thing on like looking at animations that are not fluid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I also don't have a great answer for this, but I kind of cherry picked features from current games that I really like, and so I thought Subnautica, how they do their crafting system. You know, crafting is big these days. Uncharted set pieces and their puzzles would be, you know, a big feature. Assassin's Creed traversal, I should say, is it's just so fluid. And then I'm gonna give another shout out to one of my personal favorites, Binary Domain, for shooting, weapon upgrades, and the characters in that game. I mean, a French robot. Come on, every game needs a French robot. Let's get real.
Nice.
All right, next up from Dustin. Does the current letter grade system Game Junk uses include an S plus rank above the A plus rank? If so, it'd be cool if the S rank was limited similar to the Film Junk 6 rating. Hadn't really thought about this before. I mean, I know what the answer is. No, there's no S rank. These are
Yeah, I mean, I certainly never thought it was there,
Yeah,
but
same.
I mean, it's an interesting idea if something ever blows us away so much that it gets S tier, S grades, but these are traditional report card grades. And I'm sorry, that's the way it's going to be.
and I mean, we should point out this is strictly for showcases. This is not for games.
Yes. Games are out of 5.
Yeah, and also the Film Junk one is rating movies which are like every week, whereas we're rating like 3 showcases a year, maybe 5. So I guess you know, Nintendo does do the indie worlds and stuff more often now, so it is a little more often than just, you know, a handful a year, but it is definitely not 52 a week or a year. So we're not giving a lot of ratings out.
Yeah, we'd have to have like one S tier every 5 years, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe, but it's not happening.
it's not happening.
Solid Blake. Let's get to the second part of the question. Well, it was the second question. Let's do that one first. Hypothetical question for Frank. Kojima Productions sends you an offer letter to a position that allows you to work from home, doubles your salary, and has great benefits. The only catch is you have to write and recite a formal apology to Kojima-san to be saved for community viewing online, acknowledging that he's not a hack and overrated. Do you do it? I don't know if I called him a hack. Those words were in quotes, so maybe I did. I definitely think he's overrated. That doesn't mean he's bad or I don't value, like, Metal Gear Solid was on my list, but Zone of the Enders wasn't. Neither was, you know, some more recent games. Like the guy
Snatcher wasn't somehow. What?
Very important to gaming, and like just I appreciate everything that he does and how he does it. I just don't know if his games are all that much fun, or I guess this is how I'd view it. There are many other great designers that nobody knows about. Even last week, talking about Michel Ancel, and people, that's a name people have heard of, but doesn't get mentioned. And someone had informed us on the Discord or somewhere that he retired, which kind of sucks. But, you know, it's more that he's this name that's synonymous with gaming that just by the nature of it, people assume the greatest video game designer ever. And he's certainly the greatest auteur, I would say, of video game creation. But I mean, in terms of actual design and fun factor, I just think he's kind of overrated. But would I apologize? No,
well, first of all, would you want to work for Kojima?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. Like, I think I just think the old games are a little too self-indulgent, but there's obviously amazing, unique ideas that no other games have. So it's not like I wouldn't play a Kojima game, or I would love to work for him. But he is a bit overrated. I think after Red Dead, I really want to go back, especially after today's episode, and play Metal Gear Solid 1 and possibly the first 3, 4, 5 of those. Been really wanting to play Metal Gear games again. Okay, actual question, or the first question from Solid Blake. What games made you jealous as a game designer? I.e., you are pissed you didn't think of an idea, gameplay mechanic, etc. Who wants to go first here?
I mean, I got a huge list.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got 5 on my list as well. So Sean, why don't you go?
Okay, I'm just going to read them off for the most part. I won't give too much additional info, but this happens a lot. And for me, it's mostly like smaller games where, you know, you can see yourself like, I could have made this myself. Like one person, if you had this idea, maybe you could have pulled this off, right? So first one, which I'm sure maybe we all have on our list, Vampire Survivors, huge one. I'll just read the rest. Unpacking, Baba Is You, Downwell, Wordle. I mean, anyone could have made that, but like,
I mean, someone did make it. It was called Mastermind. They just put it in an app and used letters.
Yeah. What the Golf, Dicey Dungeons, Slay the Spire, Minute, Quamp, not Quap, Quamp, Case of the Golden Idol, Scribble Knots, and that Storyteller game that came out not that long ago. But Scribble Knots, interesting one. I feel like they never really reached the full potential of what that game was, but it's such a cool concept.
Kind of interesting, like AI, how that could affect a game like Scribble Knots. And
yeah, for
be able
sure.
to generate images or something like that.
Scribble Knots a really good one.
I'm not jealous of Scribble Knots. I don't like it.
Fair enough.
Doesn't work.
I did a little less, I guess, newer games, and mine I think are a bunch of mine are kind of hinging on tech informing the design. So like I have like GTA 3, for instance, because it was like the first game that really did an open world. And so, I mean, from a design point of view, I mean, everyone wanted to do it. You just couldn't before, and they didn't have the memory for it. They were kind of the first ones to figure out a good streaming system and how to make a world that allow you to travel through that. So that was really like a really game, like a game I was jealous of that game was out and I hadn't worked on that kind of thing. Similar, like basically anything Carmack does for me, you know, Doom, Wolfenstein, 2 prime examples. I mean, they were just cutting edge. Even like Commander Keen before that, to a certain extent, with the scrolling. And then other ones like more design focused, Portal, I thought was like incredible puzzle design and just like really, really fun and intuitive, and how they presented it was amazing. Arkham Asylum for the combat. I mean, basically every game since that game has that Arkham Asylum combat now.
Very cool.
So, I mean, that basically is a foundation of third-person action games now, that combat. So how could you not be jealous of that game? And the last one, Case of Golden Idol and Return of the Obra Dinn for the deductive logic puzzles. Really well thought out puzzles that they don't necessarily hold your hand, but they give you all the clues to be able to solve them. And I think it's really, really well done in both those games. So those are my list.
Number 1, my list, and the others aren't even close. As Sean already mentioned, Vampire Survivors. Literally anyone with game development experience could make that game to some degree. And it just simplified and distilled roguelikes and video games in a way down to a bunch of choices and moving in the most addictive way. And
it's basically a twin stick shooter minus the twin stick.
a one shooter where all you do is press A.
Auto fire.
They can't stop playing it. Like, that's amazing. I thought someone might say Frog Fractions. I thought that might come up somewhere, but
Oh yeah, that is a great game. Didn't even think
my
of that.
next was on Sean's as well, Unpacking. I added Dicey Dungeons after someone said it. That's a really good one. Horizon Forbidden West. Oh, so how the fuck did I say that? Jeez. What? Sorry, I wrote the wrong game. That's embarrassing. Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm definitely not jealous of Forbidden West. Doing your own franchise. That's also on the list to go back and play both. Just when I first saw footage of it, these huge creatures that you're going to take down, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be so on rails. Like it looks amazing, but playing it is going to be, it's not going to be that good. And they pulled it off. Like all these different creatures that have weak points and different ways and weapons that were just different, like tripwires and what's the one that like attaches them to the ground? Just so many cool ideas, and the scale of fighting those creatures and like being able to do it in a like achievable way. Like, so many bosses like that can fly around and do things, like they're a pain in the ass sometimes. Like stationary bosses are so much easier to design and account for, and the fact that these things moved in a world and you were taking them down they're all like kind of mini bosses. That's amazing. Horizon Zero Dawn for sure. Helldivers 2. Just taking a concept that's been there before, co-op shooters, extraction, and just making it so simple, like very basic, obvious economies. After a few rounds, everything about the game. There's a learning curve that you still manage to get over. And then how everyone knows what to do. Like if you play with randos online, sometimes people jump off and do weird things, but you know where the objectives are. You can use pins and markers and it just works. Like I've never played a multiplayer game cooperatively with random people and have it go that well, especially one that's that complicated. So Helldivers 2, amazing. And just another recent one, Beyond Good and Evil. Like a very simple open world, everything like contextual and still kind of like a tangible game where like everything, you pick up certain things. It feels like a real cartoon world, like a Pixar world that you're actually interacting with. And I was really impressed playing that game. It's so ahead of its time. And someone needs to make like a Beyond Good and Evil type game, that level, with like super polished modern graphics. It would absolutely rule. I'm going to mix in one of the later questions. Are we good with that question?
Yeah.
I'm just mixing some later ones. Flo Lieb, will Frank ever finish Red Dead Redemption 2? I can't say. I'm literally about 3 hours away from platinuming the first Red Dead Redemption. I will be downloading and starting Red Dead Redemption 2. It could go either way. It could just be, let's continue this journey, or this is not Red Dead Redemption 1, and I do not like it. And we will see. You might have an answer next week, Flo Lieb. Henrik, Rogue Trader. Is Frank feeling the PC curse of the machine no longer being brand new and fancy? I understand this was his first gaming PC. When does he feel he needs to upgrade? Not really. I feel like I can play most games on my PC. If I'm being 100% honest, I'm not that good at discerning the difference between them and the fidelity between things. So I think that's why. All things being equal, I resorted to the comfort of consoles. But I do like playing stuff I can only get on my PC. So I'm still glad to have it. All right, back to a group question. Kiddo in Flames. This is a good question. Which game blew your minds in your early years of gaming? Scenario: you're younger, maybe you've got 5 years of gaming under your belt, and you find yourself in front of a game that really just elevates gaming as a whole in your mind. Maybe it was your first RPG or an open world. So this might cross with gaming moments, but what games blew your mind?
Okay, so I've got a list. I think I'm going to take a guess. I feel like maybe we're a little older than Kiddo in Flames. So some of my mind-blowing moments are not going to seem very mind-blowing at all. But do you want me to start?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. My number 5 is Blades of Steel for NES.
Speech?
The digitized voices. I just, I didn't have an NES at the time. I had an Atari at home, I think. Maybe I had a Commodore 64 by then. I don't really remember, but my next door neighbor got an NES, fired up Blades of Steel, and I was just like, oh my God, this is crazy.
I'll just add Sports Talk Baseball was like that for me. And like a weird secondary one, World Series Baseball, when they went to the strike zone angle rather than looking above, that was pretty amazing.
Okay. Are we going around, or how do you want me to just keep going?
Keep going. Just
okay. Next one, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game.
these are really good, Sean.
Seeing the intro, like that's basically the cartoon intro, but on an arcade game, and feeling like it was pretty close. I mean, now I look at it and it's not close at all, but feeling like it was pretty close to the cartoon. It was like, oh my God, what is going on?
I agree. And that's not even what I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say throwing a foot soldier at the screen.
Oh, well, yeah, that too.
Yeah.
That is,
Mind.
yeah. Number 3, Super Mario Brothers 3. It was kind of the size of the world. I don't know if it's probably not that much bigger than the first 2 Super Mario games, but I think with the overworld map and everything, somehow it just felt like huge. It felt like there were so many places to go, and every level kind of felt like it had a different feel and theme to it. That kind of just blew me away. Number 2, this one's a bit of a cheat because it was more like I was playing it in a store. I wasn't playing it at home. And it's not even a game that I'm like the biggest fan of, but Super Mario 64, playing that at, I believe it was at Toys R Us, they had a display set up, and just something about like, that was kind of the first 3D platformer game where you could kind of cameras moving around you and you're seeing everything. And it just seemed like, I can't believe this is possible, And I'm sure for some people Doom would have been like that, but I wasn't really a PC gamer at that point, so I hadn't really played that kind of stuff. And number 1, I mean, this maybe it doesn't deserve to be number 1, but I just thought it was kind of funny. PlayStation VR, the London heist, picking up the cigar and smoking it. And it actually, I assume it's hooked up to the mic or something, but that you actually can blow smoke was like crazy.
That is a really good one, Sean. Nicely done.
I don't even want to say my list. That list was top notch. My list is absolute trash compared to that list. I mean, my list is a lot of crossover with some of the other stuff we've talked about, but just GTA 3, experiencing an open world for the first time was really like blew my mind that you could just kind of drive for a long, long time and explore this world. Wolfenstein, first time playing that on a PC, like an old PC. Never played anything like that before. Mario 64, the first time you are able to semi-control a camera with an extra stick and look around a world and kind of just like explore nooks and crannies from like a third-person platformer type game. Really, really a special moment. Sierra games, just like I mentioned it before, like seeing those cutscenes every time you get a new one, experiencing sort of like the new technology of the day and how they were able to improve from the previous ones. And then playing Final Fantasy IV for the first time. It's my first real like RPG I ever played, and it just blew my mind and kind of hooked me on RPGs. So yeah, Sean's list was way better than mine. So well done, Sean.
Here, mine are Super Mario World. Just seeing it on the cover of Electronic Gaming Monthly with the huge bullet bill. I think a lot of mine are related to scale. Uh, and I would like, that's the first video game magazine I bought. And just that game in general, it was the first time I thought I'd played NES, but I wasn't really cognizant of the fact like there's going to be newer, better consoles. Like I thought like every game is going to be an NES game forever till the day I die. This is what I included. Oh my God, there's going to be new and better things. And this is how good Mario is going to look next. And all of that, seeing that, I think it was at a Tops in the States. I saw that magazine and my life changed. Donkey Kong Country, seeing the 3D like CGI graphics in a sprite based form. Any delusions I had about, oh yeah, Genesis is pretty good. I don't need a Super Nintendo. Those flew out the window. I had to have an SNES. God of War 1 for me and its use of scale. So cameras being really far away, placed cameras. Like I remember walking across that sword. That's a bridge to fight Ares, and then you fight Ares and you're enormous all of a sudden. And that kind of opened up my eyes of like, wow, you could play around with scale in really interesting ways. And I guess I don't have it on my list, but the submarine in Uncharted is kind of a similar type moment. Right stick controls for NHL and map, like actually.
I almost put that one on my list too.
Hockey is there. And I think playing Guitar Hero 2 for the first time. So had not really played a rhythm game. Finally, Guitar Hero came to Xbox 360 or Guitar Hero 2, I should say. I don't know why I just didn't buy it for PlayStation. That was so fucking stupid. I was like, that's an old console. I don't play old consoles. But playing Guitar Hero 2 on 360, I played it all day. I didn't stop playing it. That journey of like failing an easy song, and I would say simultaneously doing your first expert song and be like actually noticing the skill change as you play that game was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's good.
And now I just still play Rock Band, all instruments, and where it's gone from there. That was a big moment. Blew my mind. Okay. Couple others. Zenitrude with Final Fantasy VII Remake having been his 2020 Game of the Year and his excitement for Rebirth. Just curious if Frank is planning on playing Crisis Core at any point, or has that ship sailed along with the rest of the compilation of FF7? I think that ship has sailed. I'll never say never, but pretty sure. And RJ, this is an old question that got missed, and RJ was complaining in the Discord. So we got to it, RJ. Relax. Can Frankie share his top Remedy game entertainment games from most to least beloved? And he provided a list. So in order, chronologically, Death Rally, Max Payne 2, Alan Wake. I feel like something's missing there. Quantum Break, Control, and Alan Wake 2. And my order would be Max Payne, number 1, original Alan Wake, number 2, Quantum Break, number 3, Control, number 4, Max Payne 2, number 5, Alan Wake 2, number 6, and Death Rally, number 7. Do you guys have a list, or what would be your best? What would be your best on that list?
I mean, I might put Max Payne 1 at the top, believe it or not.
That's what I put on the list. Of course I believe it.
Oh, okay. So I was trying to figure out if there was another Remedy game in there that we missed, but I
would put Control myself, or
Control
Quantum
would
Break.
be near the top for me. Yeah, I do like it quite a bit.
I never played Max Payne, so it's a bit of a blind spot for me.
I liked the mechanics of, they're very similar, but I feel like I enjoyed playing Quantum Break more than Control. I got so lost in Control. Quantum Break's a little more linear. They both suffer from like kind of overdone storytelling. But I kind of, based on the ones I finished versus the ones I didn't, is basically the split of my list after Control. All right, that's it for questions. Anything else we missed? Anything we got to cover?
No, I was just looking, and it is weird that there's that big gap in Remedy's list of games. I don't know exactly what happened there. Like it says 2006 to 2016 is their era of like partnership with Microsoft. So I don't know if it just took that long to develop Alan Wake, but
I thought I remembered at some point like a third Max Payne that might have been canceled or something like that. I know they eventually that Rockstar got it, but I kind of think anyway, I don't know for sure.
yeah.
All right, that's it. 200 episodes plus probably 50 other ones somewhere scattered in the internet somewhere. Thanks to all the listeners and watchers on youtube.com/game junk. Leave your comments there. Discord links are there. Who knows if we'll make it to 300? Who knows if we'll make it to 220? The world is crazy. You never know what's going to happen. So thanks for sticking with us, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.